Okay, this is the 5-minute podcast review for Wednesday, May 30th, 2018, and I'm going to be experimenting with the format a little bit as we head into June. Basically, I'm going to be trying to live up to the podcast's title of being actually around 5 minutes. The last episode ran over 13 minutes, so almost 3 times longer than it should have. So the way I'm going to tackle this is by experimenting with covering less podcasts per episode, but putting episodes out more frequently. At least for June, I'll put out an episode weekly, but just cover 1 or maybe 2 podcasts per episode, the aim being to keep each to 5 minutes or less. Now, why does it matter if I run longer than 5 minutes? Well, maybe it doesn't. That's what I'm experimenting with, but I reckon there's a real niche for the short podcast, something you can easily subscribe to and listen to without it being much of an overhead on your overall listening time. After all, the idea of this podcast is really to be a pointer to other podcasts you might want to listen to. So I'll kick off the experiment with the podcast I want to feature this episode, which is called Tape. It's a really good, longer-form podcast that talks to other creators of radio and podcasts. If you're into the podcast and public radio world, you'll have heard of names like Alex Blumberg, Struthi Pinamaneni, Emily Botine, Nate DeMeo, Alex Spiegel, Zoe Chase, Alex Goldman. You'll have heard these names on many program credits. And Tape is episode-long interviews with each of these people, plus many more people. It's produced and presented by Mooj Zaidi and Mickey Kappa, younger guys who have a fair bit of experience interning on well-known podcasts and working at organisations like NPR. Now, what really hooked me on Tape was the almost confronting, definitely challenging areas the conversations sometimes go into. I don't mean in an aggressive way, but in the way great conversations can sometimes go. A good example is the episode with Gimlet founder Alex Blumberg. Alex and Gimlet made a big play in their early days about diversity, about getting more women and more diverse ethnicities behind the microphone. But Mooj Zaidi, who is of Sudanese ethnicity, calls Alex out on the fact that the Gimlet lineup is still mainly white men. And the discussion around that, punctuated by long silences from Alex Blumberg, is genuinely compelling.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious, what happened?
Right. Well, I mean, so, we're part of the white power structure, and we're a part of that, everybody, and especially public radio, the place that we're drawing a lot of our talent is a very white place, and it's been very sticky trying to fight against that. But we're still not doing what we can, what we should.
Okay, so you really do need to listen to the whole episode to put that moment in its proper context, but it was just an example of the kind of honest, nuanced conversation people seem to shy away from these days, at least in the mainstream media, but somehow still manages to happen in the safety zone, for want of a better term, of podcasts. Tape's definitely not all heavy moments. Across the episodes, and including the Alex Blumberg episode, are many, many great stories of how people got themselves into broadcasting or podcasting, and plenty of insights on how great stories are developed. So give Tape a listen, maybe starting with the Alex Blumberg episode. And just to finish, I mentioned the other host of Tape, Mickey Kappa. I noticed Mickey had another experimental podcast of his own called Sidewalks, basically putting out 2 to 3 minute random thoughts or sometimes just soundscapes. One episode was just the sound of Mickey brushing his teeth for 2 minutes. But the episode I wanted to share broke that pattern. It's a 20-minute phone call to his grandparents a couple of days after Trump was elected president. Now, Mickey's still reeling from the result and deflated. His grandparents, who Mickey obviously has a close relationship with, are, by contrast, pretty okay with the result. It's a phone call that just quite powerfully captures a moment in time. So the episode's called Calling Grandma, and it's worth a listen when you've got 20 minutes. That's it. Check out Tape and Sidewalks. Links to everything I've talked about are on your screen, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for listening.